Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of the Volpe Bazzo Report. We are taping here on August 7th because it will be the last show I tape before your September 10th primary. And wherever you are in our viewing audience, there is a primary on every line somewhere in our audience. So whatever party you're registered, and as long as you're registered to any of the conservative, independents, working families, Republican, Democrat, you should find out what primary is going on in your town. Please, in a lot of instances, whoever wins your primary will be the elected person in November because the other party doesn't really have a challenge coming up.
There's a 50-50 chance of that happening.
No, better than that. No, like in Cortland. Dominic is running for council in Cortland.
And maybe you should tell people that Dominic's not here. I'm not Dominic.
I will get to that in a minute because he's right now in Florida having Mai Tais.
Oh, all right.
But Dominic is running for the council in Yorktown. And the Republicans...
No.
I'm in Cortland.
Cortland.
Sorry.
No.
Yeah, I'm looking at you and I'm all confused.
Don't get all nervous now.
Anyway, he's running for the council in Yorktown. Call Cortland. I'm going to do this all night long, Andy.
Because I interrupted you.
Yes.
I threw you right off.
Yes, you did.
Yes, I
anyway,
did.
But the Republican Party in Cortland has been lucky to amass 30% of the vote in the last 7-8 years every time they... So they'll be lucky to get 40%. So whoever wins the primary
What
in
percentage
Cortland,
chance do they have of winning?
Very
60-40?
A lot less than that.
You know, the Democrat, though, 60-40, you would say.
I would say
Based on your
70-30.
other statistics.
70-30.
Yeah.
I would say 70-30. So whoever
Bazzo
wins the
firm.
primary in Cortland for the council is probably going to be the winner in November. Like I said, odds 70-30. So it's important for you folks out there to vote on September 10th. We have a primary here in Yorktown, and that's why this show is here, because number one, I want to remind you, every week you can see my column in the Yorktown News.
That's a shameless self-promotion.
Yes, it is. It is. And wait till I have self-promote you. Shamelessly.
Shamelessly, indeed.
And we have some great guests today because this is a serious show that's going to run through up until the primary, and it's important. My first guest is the editor of the Yorktown News.
Yes.
Pick it up and hold it up.
Once again, this is the same paper that you just
Right. He did the front page. The editorial's mine. That's Brian Paganelli, the guy that has to fight my battles every time a column comes out. And our special guest tonight
Dominic Volpe.
is Dominic Volpe, who shaved his head.
He shaved his head.
And
got older.
And got older,
Indeed.
yes. And grew a goatee.
And grew a
It's
goatee.
Dave Paganelli, who is your councilman in Yorktown, but he is running for the position of highway superintendent, and he is involved in a Republican primary, and the...
I think there's only 10 or 12 people running yet.
It's a small race.
Right, but there's also the opportunity to ballot on the independence line
Right,
and the conservative line.
Yes.
So that's why we're doing this show, and that's why Brian is here, because we are going to discuss the issues today that Dave feels you should be focusing on when you're choosing who you want to be your highway superintendent. And we already know he's the better looking one, so if you're voting on looks, he wins that.
And I'm the happier one, certainly.
Yes,
No
yes. So I'm going to turn the show over right now for the first question to our editor and the man who's makes sure that...
And what purpose do you have this fine gentleman here for? You know, you
so
explain to people what the
give it an air of
here is.
legitimacy, because if it's just you and I talking,
Right,
then
that's
people are going to wind up wondering when we're going to neck and kiss, and
Right, and that's always an embarrassing moment.
Right,
Especially when it's on air.
Yeah,
that's
not
right,
good.
and and then your wife is going to get jealous.
Yes, absolutely.
So go ahead, Brian. You start. Let's.
Well,
How's it working out
thank you
for
for
you so
inviting me
far?
here, Andy. This is excellent. And real quick, there's a whole controversy the last week or two in Yorktown about campaign contributions, and I've already kind of discussed this with you, and your whole take is, hey, listen, you want them about issues, not the outside stuff.
I know my vote can't be bought.
Right.
Okay, and I don't think, honestly, I don't think anyone that is running's vote can be bought.
So you don't think it's an issue, is what?
I think that people naturally support candidates that how do I put this? I think people support candidates that are of like mind.
Right.
Okay, and that being said, I think that, in certain instances there will be people that will support a person that they think is of like mind. I don't think I think there is a certain amount of currying favor involved in any donation that people are, there's a hope that somewhere along the line, there will be some currying of favor, but
that's a necessary evil, I think.
I think that's an underlying current no matter what.
One of your things, one second, one of the things you point out in your mail or your palm card is that you were a businessman for 30 years.
I've been a businessman, for longer than that.
In
one place.
But in Yorktown.
Right.
But so do you think it's important for the business community to get involved in the local election that's in the town they operate in? Is it an important thing that they should, or should they stay out of it?
No, I think it's an important thing for every person that lives in Yorktown to get involved in the election, not just the business community. I don't think anyone, there should be no delineation of people being involved. People should be involved because whomever gets elected affects your life every day.
Even more than the federal government. Even more than the federal government.
Well, it was interesting to me when I was running the first time for town board how people were so violently defending this position, and I said, well, what's so important about this position? That people are so violently defending their ability to contain it and to maintain it. And for some people, it was about power. They felt that it was a powerful position. For me, I had approbation from my restaurant that it wasn't about that for me. It was about just trying to do the right thing, and this election is going to be, as most elections are, about who do you like, who do you trust, and, particularly with the highway, who do you think brings the skill set necessary.
And as someone who's running, you're running you're a councilman now on the town board, and
Correct.
You're running for highway superintendent.
Yes.
And as you mentioned, it's a very crowded race.
You think?
Now you're going on. We
weren't exaggerating when we said between the Democrats and the Republicans, there's probably about 10 to 12 people that are on the primary ballot.
There's 6 on the ballot, 3 on each side.
Right, and so you're running on your experience really as an executive. You ran a business.
I'm running on the premise that this job is not about being able to dig a ditch. Okay, you've got to manage 31 people. Okay, you've got to work 70 to 90 hours a week to do this job correctly. I do not believe anyone else running for this position possesses that capability, to be honest with you. And that being said, I believe I am a unifier. I believe I can manage people. I believe it's allocation of assets. I believe it's about managing manpower. It's not about doing it yourself. It's about making sure 31 people do their job to the best of their ability. And that's what this job is about.
And so you're saying your experience from owning a restaurant, running a restaurant, you've done that before.
Not just a restaurant.
I'm just saying,
it was a catering hall.
Yeah.
It was you had how many rooms did you have?
Four
how many
different
rooms
things
did you
going
have?
on at once. So logistically, there were many things going on. But also, I think that it's a trust issue. It's about, at the end of the day, it's a $5 million budget. Who do you trust? That I have a proven record for 30 years of supporting tons of organizations in Yorktown, long prior to ever considering a run for public office. So it wasn't, self-motivated.
Right.
It was motivated by pure altruism. I truly believe that
pure of heart is your phrase.
Well, pure of heart, but I don't want to.
That is your phrase.
It is my phrase, and I think that it's important that people realize what my motive is.
Well, and so the next highway superintendent, as always, there's a ton of things that they have to deal with, especially it seems in Yorktown. But one of the things is the possibility.
It's a job that every day your quality of life is affected by the ability of that person to do it.
I just want to ask one question because people have expectations. Should they expect whoever wins the primary, the general election, to be the second coming of Eric D. Bartolo?
No. And you know what? Nobody, myself included, brings that total skill set to the table that can walk in and do that job as well as it's been done by the present person who's had 16 years to do it.
Right. I mean,
just like nobody can come in to my business, when I was in business, and run 4 parties in a day or do 700 dinners on a Christmas day and have enough staff that cared enough about you and you fostered a sense of unity and family that people were willing to give up their Christmas to work with you. I think that's what I bring. I bring a boost in morale. I think I bring, my being liaison to Parks and Recs, a lot of, and my relationship with refuse and recycling. I think that gives, although there will not be a head of, labor relations ever position, but I think that the ability to work well with others, because it's, you know, the highway controls the manpower during any snow events.
I'm just saying, no matter who runs for office, they're going to hear, well, Eric wouldn't have done it that way. And I just want the voters to understand that's not who they're voting for.
Right.
They're not voting for Eric. They're voting, like, for Dave Paganelli, who sees the job, not, like you said, not digging the ditches. Right. I mean, that's not what you're supposed to be doing.
And you know what? Eric's done a great job, but I don't want to be another Eric.
Right.
I want to bring my own skills and my own personality to the job.
Well, this is something that's important for people not only in Yorktown, but who drive through Yorktown.
Right.
It's the paving. And we've been covering Yorktown for over a year now, and that's always been something, finding enough money for the highway department to do paving.
I think that's the key. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think what we need in highway is we need a highway superintendent who will fight with the town board for money. Okay, and being on the town board, I've seen how the dynamic works, and I think it's really, really important that the person running highway, and I've spoken to quite a few of the foremen on highway, and they said, Dave, you know, if you win, you're inheriting a nightmare here. There's a lot of infrastructure. With the paving you're talking about, or infrastructure
overall
work, bridges, paving,
right?
Things that need sidewalks, things that need work.
Yeah.
And you're really going to have to, I will really have to fight for the citizens of Yorktown in order to get money if we have to raise bonding, whatever. We need to get back on a cycle of paving and maintenance. That's just
so that would be something that would be
hard.
One of your. I mean, when you come in, you have goals, things that you think are most important.
Right.
Infrastructure is something that is number one
having
for you.
Adequate money to do. I mean, the budget hasn't changed much in 5 years.
Right.
Yet everything costs. Everyone out there knows it costs a lot more to live today than it did 5 years ago.
Well, a lot of the money came from the outside grants. But I want to ask you a question. One of the things that you were as a councilman when you ran was that they can always reach you. Now you're going, but you were one of 4 councilmen.
Right.
Now you want to go be highway superintendent where you're one of 1. Will people still be able to reach you with the problem, or are they going to be brushed off to someone?
I think that the people that I've, constituent response is the part of this job, being on the town board, that I enjoy most, to be honest with you. People say, oh, do you miss being in the restaurant business? Well, I don't miss being in the restaurant business. I miss the people part of it. But I have that as a councilman. I've had, dozens and dozens of people that I've been able to help with issues. And a lot of them, what I found, about 80% of them were directly correlative to the highway department.
Will they be able to reach you?
Well, if they can reach me as a councilman doing things for highway, I would tend to think they can reach me as a
No, you're one of 4 because they could call Nick, they could call
Terrence.
And they should.
But there's going to be
they should still call the town board if they want to, and then the town board can talk to Dave about it.
But I think that I think that if you're truly responsive to constituents, that they don't have to call the town board. They should be able to call highway and get the answer they need. The town board, I find, is always a secondary response when people, either they don't get the answer they want.
You want to go right to the source, which would be
right. Why shouldn't they?
Yeah.
Listen, your plow hit my mailbox. Can you do something about it? Sure. It's just about having, the allocation of manpower, making sure, like I said, everyone is working to the best of their capabilities.
What I'm trying to say is that they're going to get the same Dave Paganelli in highway that they got on council.
Better. Because on council, I'm one of 4.
Okay. Now,
in highway, I'll be one of 1.
Going back to what you were saying, I'll let you go back to your allocation of funds for the paving.
Well, I actually want to ask another thing here is that, there's several issues. I mean, the highway department, it's possible that it could be moved.
Yes.
Now, so I could ask you, are you pro moving it to, I guess, the hill on Greenwood Street, which is mentioned, but then also with your councilman hat and just as a citizen of Yorktown and highway?
I got to wear both hats tonight?
Well, you might have to.
Oh,
you might have to take one of his.
You know what? No one briefed me on this.
Yeah, right.
Look
at that.
Oh, my Lord. Now people know you don't have a big head of hair.
They also know I'm still handsome.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, God. Thank God there's no penalty for imagination.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
Modesty is a false virtue.
Moving the highway department, if that were to happen, that would most likely happen under your watch. If you're elected, I would think. I know things take a while with permits, but then get your feelings on that and your feelings on what would replace the highway department. Because that's
like it's a double question.
I think so.
Can we do them one at a time?
Yes.
Yes?
Take your time.
All right.
And we'll translate it into Spanish.
Okay, as far as moving the highway department, I think from the highway superintendents, I'm going to speak now with my highway superintendent, God willing, his hat
Yes.
on. Okay, if I were the highway superintendent, I would be very much in favor of the plan that exists today. I would be in favor of it.
Which is what exactly?
Right,
Which is
because you got to
to
say
take-
the audience doesn't know what you know.
Okay, it was what's on the table today is, the possibility of taking highway out of the middle of town, bringing it up to the sewer treatment plant up on off Greenwood Avenue, on Greenwood Avenue actually, and bringing Parks and Recs up next to it. About a 36,000 square foot, I think it was, building. We just discussed it last evening. Building for highway and about a 20,000 square foot building for Parks and Recs, which would take all our Parks and Recs equipment away from Downing Park and away from the tennis courts where we have plows and what have you, and put them there. Now, why would I be in favor of that? In emergency events, okay, such as Hurricane Sandy or snow events, when highway has to draw upon the manpower of all the departments, okay, you would have Parks and Recs right there with all their equipment right there. It would be a central location to respond to emergency scenarios. I think if I were the highway superintendent, I would find that very beneficial. Now, putting my councilman's hat on, okay, which is, it's an interesting thing. I'm in favor of moving the highway department up there. I just don't know, it's a cost issue. See, my compass morally is always the taxpayer. At the end of the day, I sleep very clearly, whatever decisions I make, because I make every decision I make with the interest of the taxpayer being the bottom line. As long as
a taxpayer yourself.
As a taxpayer myself, and having had paid taxes on a
house and a business.
A home and a business. I think that if this can be a cost-effective move, all right, and not a burden on the taxpayer, I have no problem with it. I'm all for it. And then, it's not, I think that this particular project is very much in its infancy. I think it's being rolled out with great fanfare, which is, excuse me, a nice thing. But I think what goes where highway was becomes a very important issue. The size, you don't want, the idea of having a sense of community and having, a downtown kind of area is a nice idea. But also, that's
the second part of his
right.
question. What do you do if it doesn't? What do you do with that area?
That's even the bigger question, because, you don't want to have anything that is an overbearing presence in the center of town.
I think, and everyone I've spoken to, whether it's the supervisor or the people in the town board, and even the people who are coming up with the renderings of what might be there, is a village feel.
Right.
Where you can
well,
there be
two,
shops.
There's two different. One is kind of very grandiose.
One's bigger, right?
Right. One is very grandiose and bigger, and
a
retail component.
I think it'd be nice to have a real
office
village
component,
feel.
And
for your
the other one's a little smaller with a bigger village green type of feel. And,
do you have a preference? We're very, as you said.
Yeah, I'm a little. I like the way the grandiose plan looks.
Yeah.
Reminiscent of a hotel that previously existed many years ago in Yorktown, right when you got off the train. Mm-hmm. But that being said,
we don't have a train anymore.
We don't have a train anymore. But that being said, I would rather it be a little smaller scale.
Like a village feel, right?
Yes, sort of, the way when you go down Commerce Street, as you're going towards Town Hall, those buildings that they built on the left sort of had their quaint little colonial feel to them.
Definitely.
They don't, it gave a lot of retail space, and it's a mixed use. It has, it has a housing component to it, but it doesn't look like that. That's my concern. I don't, and a lot of the constituents that I've spoken to people. I talk to a lot of people, and I always consider people's input in any decisions I make. And people, some people have expressed concern that it's going to be too big.
Right.
I got a question for you.
You do?
In 16 years through different administrations, there's been a love-hate relationship with highway. Sometimes they work well together, the board and highway. Sometimes they didn't. You have two people of very different views on which way Yorktown should go running for supervisor.
Yes.
if you should win your position as highway superintendent, are you going to be able to play well with others?
I play well with others no matter what. You know,
No,
my job
No,
is
but I'm
my
trying
job is not my job as a council member, and my job, you know, if I were the highway superintendent, is not to play well with others. My job is to take care of the people of Yorktown, and that's my job. So at the end of the day, like I said, at the end of the day, I have no problem being a conciliator, but at the end of the day, I have no problem standing up. You can't. The problem you have is if you ever end up with a cozy relationship between your highway superintendent and your town board, okay, and you have a situation where, oh, you know what, don't worry about money for paving. You know, you guys are doing a great job. Let's see if we can help you out. You know what? At the end of the day,
is the relationship cozy now? What's the relationship like now?
I'm not going to comment on the relationship now, but I'm going to comment on my relationship. My relationship will be, I will be an advocate for the people of Yorktown, that their roads will be paved, that their sidewalks will be taken care of, that their bridges will be taken care of. And if I have to fight with the town board to get that, then so be it.
Again, what I'm saying,
I have no problem doing
that's
that.
your job description, right?
Right. I think that's what it's
you
about.
have a lot of people that know you, that like you, that you
The Lord only knows.
No,
why.
but you were the biggest vote getter in a Yorktown election ever. So I'm saying you got people that watch this show, and they're going to say,
do people actually watch this show?
Yes, yes. She's one.
We have about 3 people.
Your mom's over there.
Yeah, she's
your
the
mom
one.
will always watch
Yes,
your show, though.
she's the
Remember
one,
that.
yeah.
She'll always
But
say
we're
nice
on
things
YouTube
about
now.
you.
The show's on YouTube now.
Oh, great. There you
So
go.
it's not
I'm sure
going
my
away.
daughters will be thrilled.
Yes.
Hopefully they
forever.
won't run into it anywhere.
Well, take off your shirt and show them the tats. We'll
Yes,
be fine.
there you go.
No,
That's
but anyway,
we'll
what
get
I want-
the Hells Angels
The idea is
vote.
you got people that are going to that really, and I
constituency.
know they would think about this, that they're going to go in the poll and say, well, if I'm going to vote for Paganelli, who would he work best with above him? Should it matter?
I don't think it matters.
That's what I'm saying.
Honestly,
Can you play well with no matter who's there?
Oh, no question.
That's what I mean.
I don't think whoever, whatever the dynamic of the board changes or doesn't change, it doesn't affect how I work with people.
But it's still got to be better to sometimes, as your boss and my boss, Brett says, it's better to get more flies with honey than with
No
vinegar.
question.
No, I mean, the adversarial really didn't serve the town well under the Siegel administration. It did not serve the town well.
No, it
If
didn't.
it did, she'd have been reelected.
Yes, and that's true. But like I said, I'm not here to comment on previous administrations. I'm not.
No, we're
I don't make.
It's your
I'm not
personality.
here to make.
No,
I'm not here to make judgments.
No, you can't change the past. What I'm saying to you is Dave Paganelli's person. People have to get out of their mind.
People who know me
Right,
know that I can work with.
People have to get out of their mind that there's going to be somebody new in January.
Right.
And I would like it to be you. I've endorsed you twice now. So
I would
far.
like it to be me also. But
And
that's a fact. But
And I'm saying, so it's a different personality trait. You do
No
work
question.
well with others.
What I bring.
I saw that on your palm card
I
about
bring
working.
Right, that's what I bring. I bring, you know what? If I say to R&R, I say to Parks, if there's a snow event coming, my personality is not a domineering personality. My personality is a different personality. So what I would do is I would sit down with them and say, okay, here's what I'm going to need from you. Okay, I'm going to need your drivers, I'm going to need this and that, but I know tomorrow you got to pick up garbage after we plow it in tonight. What do you need from me to make you whole at that point? And that's my personality.
You said something about working Christmas, getting people to work, getting people to come in on a Christmas to work. That's what I'm asking. What you learned from the restaurant, how to get that out of people instead of saying, "Oh, I'm going to have a turf war." No, I'm not. But
Listen,
not you.
There was a person that interviewed for this endorsement, all right, and didn't get it, and they shall remain unnamed. It's Lord of the Rings. He who shall remain unnamed. All right, and this person, they said, how would you handle it if you had employees that you had trouble with that weren't responding to your, request? You know what they said? Oh, I'd go down to the union hall and get more. They didn't even realize we have CSEA employees. Okay, they don't realize that there's no, oh, you know what? You're not working well with me, so I'm going to replace you with somebody. That doesn't work. You need to work with everyone. You need to be the kind of person that can bring everyone to the table and foster a good sense of morale, make highway the shining jewel of the Yorktown departments that it should be, because it certainly does more than its lion's share of work with respect to the work that these men and women do in highway, and they deserve the respect of every person in Yorktown.
Well, because you're down the last 4 minutes, I'm going to turn it over to Brian before I close the show.
You get to say something. But this was like the first time I was on his show.
No.
So I'm not even going to get into it because you'll lose your 4 minutes.
One of your important things is your business experience. And like I said, this thing you learned as a business owner, dealing with lots of employees and allocation.
Dealing with the worst economy since the Great Depression, dealing with a business that I had to struggle for 5 years to keep afloat.
But getting people to pull together, that is an important trait that comes from business, and I believe that
I don't think that
no, but what I'm saying,
anyone else brings that to the table.
That's what I want to say. That's what we were talking about that I think sets you apart.
And that's the platform I'm running on.
Does Tom Diana, doesn't he have his own business?
Not for 30 years.
2 or 3 employees.
30 years. For 30 years, he worked off the taxpayers' dime.
Right.
You know, I never run a campaign where I spoke negatively about anyone else. That's not what it's about. It's about, do you believe I can do the job? Do you think I'm the right person? Do you trust me? Well, have I proven myself to the people of Yorktown that I'm the person that you can trust with this job, that you feel comfortable picking up the phone and say, hey, Dave, I got a problem. Can you take care of it?
Well, and that's the final question here, really. How are your signatures? How did that go? How does going door to door go? And how are you optimistic about getting on the Republican line? And what do you think? How do you think that's going to play out?
Well, I'm optimistic. Certainly, I would not be doing it if I was pessimistic. But I'm always a glass half full kind of guy. So, that's my personality. I've been, greatly received by, the people I've visited, and, it's a funny thing because you go to someone's house and, I'm trying to hit all prime voters because it's very important to vote in the primary, and we know who voted in the last 2 primaries. This is not going to be that interesting a primary. In other words, there's only a primary, other than the OTBs, there's only a primary, which is an opportunity to ballot. There's only a primary for the highway position. Last time there was a primary for the supervisor, there were primaries in the council races. So it was certainly an election that more people. So
your whole thing is you got to get people that out to vote for you, that like you, and that.
I think that we have identified about 800 to 900 people who are prime voters. I truly believe if I have the opportunity to touch every one of those people, by speaking to them and letting them know what my beliefs are, that as they did support me when I ran for the council, they will believe that I'm the person.
I assume you don't mean touching them like Anthony.
No, not physically, but touching them.
I had to bring in a wiener.
I don't think we're going to see any photos on the internet.
I had to bring in a wiener joke. I mean, it's too much. You got to watch because we're going to close the show.
You got to loosen up a little.
Yeah, really.
I want to close the show.
That's the problem with this show. There's never any banter or nothing. It's just like so regimented.
I got to wrap it up, but you got to admit it's ridiculous what's going on in New York City.
Hey, I think
it's always ridiculous.
I think it's a wonderful thing when the best candidate running is a madam. That says so much about New York City politics. That she said when they interviewed her, she said, "Well, at least I paid my debt to society. I'm the most honest person out there." And I said, "Oh my gosh, this is a madam." It's like, and she was right.
That's what I want to close the show on a happy note. Dave, good luck.
Thank you very much,
Brian,
Andy.
thank
Pleasure.
you for coming.
You got it, Andy.
Thank you.
And we will have you back on sooner than you know because we're going to.
This dragged on, didn't it? It was a tough show to get through.
Whatever you want to do, Andy.
We're going to have to go over the results of the elections out for the audience, so you'll be back sooner than you think.
Okay.
Have a good night. This is what I say. What say you? Have a good night, everybody. And next week, Dominic will be back from having his Mai Tais, and we'll be having another show.